Oh man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. If you've been following me, you'll know that I didn't pass my OSCP recently for the second time. So now I'm in this weird spot where I've got like 2 months before I can take another OSCP attempt, and I feel like I'm like really close to making it. So I mean, of course, I'm going to continue studying for OSCP, but I also want to take this opportunity to learn more about an area that I'm weak in, which is web app security. So I'm trying to go through, learn more about some basic web app stuff, and I'm sure you'll see a lot of web app focused content coming out on the channel. First up, I'm going to talk about some basic cross site scripting bypass techniques. And I made a blog post about this just yesterday that I'm going to be referencing the entire time, so feel free to follow along with me if you'd like to. Um, but this video is going to be pretty simple. And I learned about a lot of this stuff from Pentester Labs, which is an awesome resource. I'd highly recommend them. And so that's kind of where I got a lot of this stuff from. But they don't like you to publish, like the walkthroughs or like a write up of their tutorials. So I found this website instead that has some like vulnerable cross-site scripting capabilities. So I'm going to use it kind of as an example. It's not perfect, but you'll see what I'm talking about. So first up, we are going to just test with a regular cross-site scripting payload, right? So we can come in here, we can open up a script tag, and we can make an alert pop up that says XSS, and then we'll just close out our script tag. Right, so let's hit go, and let's see if this works. Bam. Okay, cool. So we've got a pop-up message, right? So this is pretty benign. It's not malicious. It's not really doing anything, but it's a proof of concept. Because we have this confirms that we're executing JavaScript code on the client side in our browser. But that means we could get more malicious with things like trying to steal session cookies and things like that. So that's outside the scope a bit of this video. But let's go ahead and view the page source on this, and we can just get an idea of what just happened. Um, so if we come in here, we can try to find our script tag, which I did this alert XSS, so I'm just kind of searching for that. So we see here, anything that gets entered gets added right here into this field. Um, so in our case, we had this script alert XSS script, right? Everything got passed through. We didn't have to do any crazy bypass or any weird filtering or anything, right? Our script tags made it all the way. The alert made it all the way. We were able to do everything we wanted to do. But the goal of this video was to kind of tell you, okay, well, what happens if the script tag does get blocked? Well, one thing that you can always try is just tweaking the case, right? So instead of having it all be lowercase, maybe have a capital C or some capital letters there in the middle. So we could come back and we could just kind of try that, and I can just copy this entire payload so I don't have to type it out. Or we can just throw this into our search field and hit go. And again, we get the pop-up, which is great. And if we view the source code on this guy, we can see, cool, our case sensitivity in here made it through. Now, again, of course, we kind of expected it to, right? Because it doesn't look like this web app is doing any sort of filtering in place. But if it were, it may have only filtered based on lowercase values. And so adding a capital letter in there is always a great thing to try. Another thing you could try is sometimes you'll find that when you insert, your script alert thing, it strips out the script tag from the request. So that is awesome, right? Because if you strip out the script tag, it goes from looking like this to now you don't have that, you don't have that, and you just have that. And that doesn't do anything, right? There's nothing to indicate, hey, we're running JavaScript. However, a lot of filters that do remove script tags like that, they don't do it recursively. So what I mean is if you were to grab this, you just copy it. If you paste it into itself and you do the same thing here, copy that and paste that into itself, now we have a payload that if we were to throw into, the web application, this is what we would enter. It might come through and remove, okay, well, hey, we know script tag is malicious. I'm going to remove that. And then it's going to come through and, oh, we got another script tag here, closing it. I'm going to remove that. And then it's done. And it moves on. It thinks, cool, we prevented an attack. But what gets left behind is the actual script tag, right? And so then in that case, the payload would execute. And because it didn't search recursively, we were able to bypass it. So another option is using something that's not a script tag. And there's a number of tags you could use for this, but a really common one is to try, all right, well, let's do an image tag, right? And what we're saying here is let's go and use an image that is at this source that we provide. And we say the name is zzz.jpg. Now, that image doesn't exist, right? And I mean, I guess if it did exist, then this would never get triggered. That action would never get triggered. But in most in most cases, there's not going to be an image with that image name, so it's going to trigger an error. And when that error happens, we can then say, okay, well, generate this XSS alert. And again, not malicious here, but instead of doing an alert down the road, we could say like steal a session cookie or whatever we want to do. So just for proof of concept, we can come in here, and this is a useful one to use in the event that script tags are prevented. Bam, and we got the pop-up, and we even see a broken image to confirm all that works. And again, you can always view the page source and try to figure out, where it is that that all got injected to. It's always a great idea to view the page source. Cool. So we tried the image tag. Now this one's really cool, the JavaScript eval. So what that's talking about, let me break this down. We'll throw it into here. So a payload that you're used to seeing is like script, right? And then you would do alert, XSS, close it out. That's the payload you're used to seeing. What this is doing is, what if the script tag was allowed? Like the web application didn't strip the script tag. We didn't have to do any bypass around that. But what if the word alert was blocked? It's like, hey, well, we know that alert's a common way that people test for cross-site scripting. So as a smart web developer, I'm going to make sure they can't use the word alert. Well, we could bypass that by using eval to concatenate two different pieces. So what I mean by that is, we, instead of just throwing straight into alert, we instead go into eval, and then we would just break alert and then the rest of it into two separate pieces. So what that would look like is exactly like what we have here. So when you break this down, what it's essentially doing is it's taking this and then it adds the rest of it all the way up to that point, right? That's the double quote. So that's where that double quote gets closed. And then that's what it ends up becoming. So we're saying to evaluate this, concatenate the two together, and then we'll just pass the rest of what we had. And check it out. That payload looks exactly like the one that we had before. So you throw something like that in, and it should also work to be able to proof of concept, generate a pop-up. It's cool stuff, right? So that's another way you could do like a little bypass if they're alert or if they're filtering based on the alert action. Um, and then finally, if you're analyzing, and I can't demonstrate this one inside of my little, web page example that I found, but if you analyze the source code and you identify that where you have the ability to inject stuff is already inside of an open script tag, and in our case, we're not, like we're inside of a div tag, and there's a close right there. But in the event that you already are inside of a script tag, you don't need to inject your own, right? You just need to start talking JavaScript to it. And if you start talking JavaScript to it, then maybe you'd be able to pass in straight away by doing this alert, right? And you don't need to do open script, close script on the outsides. So that's kind of what that last one's talking about. I wish I had a better example to kind of show you and explain to you what I mean. But yeah, these are some of the most basic bypass techniques to use when you think, or when you're testing for cross-site scripting. So I hope this was helpful to you. If nothing else, feel free to bookmark this page and just reference it down the road when you're on an engagement. But yeah, if there's anything that you think I missed that you think would be a great addition to this list, please let me know. I think that I'm going to continue to update this as I learn more. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys if you have some feedback. So that's everything this time, and I'll see you guys in the next video.